for me, that's one of the reasons why I love the 400 IM, because you've got 8 swimmers with 8 different race strategies, and it's who can pull it together the best.
Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our preview series, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by swimming royalty today in the form of Hannah Miley, a 3-time Olympian, European and Commonwealth champion, world short course champ and long course world medalist, and Jasmine Carlin, double Olympic silver medalist, European champion, Commonwealth champion, world medalist. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Now, I know you've both had history in the podcast world, alongside Lauren in the Honest Athlete series, which is still up online. But is there anything that you guys would like to share in terms of what you're involved with now in your life after competitive swimming careers?
It's been certainly a roller coaster. I think I'm still figuring out what it is that I want to do, but currently working with Sport Scotland as a performance lifestyle practitioner, which is great fun, working across all different sports, and an element within my career which was quite prevalent, so it's nice being able to give back. And then the self-employed work, I'm working a lot around female health advocacy and in partnership with WUCA, sort of period wear brand. So we're trying to axe the tax on period sportswear. So we're kind of doing a couple of campaigns around that. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what it is that I want to do when I grow up, but still trying to find feet in places. But I really enjoy helping people and staying involved in sports. So being part of this podcast has been really exciting to sort of talk about the the championships coming up. And yeah, I'm currently waffling on quite a fair bit because my brain has now just stopped working. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Hannah also forgot to mention we've both recently become mums. So yeah, life has been completely different and a new stage of life. Obviously I competed with Hannah along the years, which was incredible, and yeah, we raced each other a fair few times, but in different events. Hannah would always pop away into many different events, so I would always be racing against Hannah. But I guess now, away from becoming a mum and retiring from sport, I currently run swim camps all around the country really, but mainly at Millfield School. So we've got 4 camps a year there, and camps are always full. We have so many different swimmers from ages, abilities, levels, swimming clubs. So I get to meet lots of swimmers every single year. I'm also an ambassador for Splashabout, which is a baby and child swimwear. So, you know, we're really trying to make waves in the early ages of swimming, which I'm super passionate about, is getting as many people confident in the water. And it starts at that young age for me, you know, being able to be exposed to the pool from an early age. And I also work for a tech company, learning all things business as well. So I kind of spread across various different sectors, but both of us still very much involved in sport and swimming to some level.
Absolutely looking forward to having your athlete insight as part of our XQUATICS community chatting on today's episode. So yeah, just to kick things off, we'll have a first look at the top seeds for our opening races of the night. So looking at those races, we start off the night with the men's 50-metre breaststroke. In that multi-classification race, we have a sole competitive Harvey Phillips this year. He had a really close race with Lyndon Longhorn in that last year, but goes solo as the SB3. I know you were both kind of down and around at champs last year, and I just want to ask you about that kind of atmosphere that got behind those para swimming races as much as anything, when those fields kind of just needed a lift to build that atmosphere and get that racing environment for them.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic to have that integration in. I think it was extremely beneficial for all athletes. It's creating like an equal platform. And the fact that whether it's an able-bodied event or a para event, they were celebrated equally. And I think it was just nice to hear the level of noise created in that. The atmosphere was just fantastic. And the London Aquatics Centre is a phenomenal centre anyway. So to be able to witness some incredible para racing as well as able-bodied racing, yeah, I think it was just amazing. It was really, really great fun last year.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even as an athlete that competed along the years, and I actually trained in Swansea alongside so many para athletes, and saw them compete, the likes of like Ellie Simmons, and seeing her at such a young age. I remember winning gold medals at 13 years old back in Beijing, and you know, they very much are a part of the aquatics program, and so to be able to celebrate that together, I think, you know, from a viewer, a lot of people fell in love with being able to watch both the Olympics and the Paralympics around the London 2012 Olympics, and what an incredible both events were. And I think to be able to see that back again, obviously in the London Aquatic Centre, is just incredible. And to hear everyone get behind all athletes is just amazing. And I know the athletes really feel the buzz. Obviously, we've been there and experienced that. So when you've got everyone behind you, it just really lifts your performance. And yeah, you're not just there for yourself. You really feel the backing of everyone in the stadium.
And across to the Olympic pathway race, I know the 50-meter breaststroke is not currently on there, and as a result, it's not got a qualifying time directly for the World Championship race here. We've got a couple of young athletes in Max Morgan leading the seeding for this one, Archie Goodburn, and Rory Dixon as well. It's going to make that a really, really fast race. Jazz, I just want to ask you, obviously, you mentioned earlier about doing the swim camps at Millfield and some of those grassroots sort of levels of performance. Max Morgan is somebody who had a really good performance at Summer Champs last year, now the Next Gen Champs. Kind of how important is that summer meet to bounce athletes on to the next year as they come in now as a junior, kind of cycling through?
Yeah, it's key having the confidence and to be able to step up onto a senior final. I think that can always be a bit of a challenge, being able to go from like junior levels up until to the senior level, and being able to compete against the best athletes in Britain. But you know, this has traditionally been an event where we've seen Adam Peaty in the 50 meters breaststroke, and you know, even on the camps now, the buzz and excitement that Adam's name brings, and the amount of swimmers that want to be Adam Peaty, and the legacy that he's created in the breaststroke events, I think has been huge for that event and for sport. So yeah, the 50 meters is not necessarily an event that I've been very good at. It's not something I competed in, but I love seeing the sprint events and being able to see the fastest swimmers in those events compete, because it's short, it's sharp. You know, you've got to be on the game. There's no room for mistakes. You've got to be on it from the start. So I've no doubt it's going to be a great event, and you know, it'll be great to see some of the youngsters coming through and being able to shine on that stage.
And Hannah, I don't know, with obviously being based up in Scotland, Archie Goodburn, his story over the past year, and just the strength and resilience and the way that the community surrounded him as he continues to compete.
It's been hugely impactful, and I think that word resilience is something that's very resounding and quite, don't even know how the words to fully describe it. It's the impact it had across the community was huge, because it's a fellow athlete, it's a fellow teammate, somebody that you know, that's you've kind of almost grown up with and seen and watched them perform, and then to have this blow has just been absolutely devastating. But the one part that's actually really shone through has been that resiliency, not just from Scottish Swimming and how they've raised money, they've done a lot of work around him, but just Archie himself. We met him at the Scottish Awards that were up in Aberdeen last winter, and he is such an amazing young man. He has got such a very mature head on his shoulders. He knows exactly where he wants to be, what he wants to do, regardless of what is going on around him, and he's looking at life in a completely different perspective. And I feel really proud and honored to be part of the swimming community that supports him and is in awe of what he's doing. But at the same time, you feel really inspired as well by his journey and his story. And it's not easy. I mean, when an individual gets a diagnosis like that, it's never easy, but he makes it seem really easy in how he carries himself. And as I say, we are hugely in awe and inspired by what he's achieved so far and continuing to still achieve. So it'll be wonderful to see how he goes at these championships. I still think he'll be incredibly competitive. He'll be up and amongst there, and you know, it's not knocked his drive. He is still just as competitive and fighting his way through it all. So yeah, so it's rallied the whole team around, and swimming's a community, but not just a community, a family, and we all look out for one another, regardless of whether you're still swimming or retired. So we're backing him 100% the way, and yeah, good on him for still being where he's at, and yeah, just as I say, hugely admire his tenacity with it all.
That's a wonderful tribute to the way that the community and Archie are carrying on. And Jazz, you mentioned the sprint isn't so much familiar ground, but this next race probably is a bit more close to your heart. The women's 1500 meter freestyle. You still hold the British record in this event at 15 minutes 47.26. We've got Amelie Blocktage going for her third potential consecutive title in the event. Always a close race with Fleur Lewis and Leah Crispin there as well. I just want to ask you about this race in a sense of when you set that British record, it wasn't an Olympic event for the women at that time. But what kind of form were you in that kind of set you to setting this record?
Yeah, I think I look back, it was at the 2013 British Championships, and it was really the season for me. I'd come off the back of missing the London 2012 Olympics, and it was like my comeback season, my comeback competition. And that's when I did best times in all my events, 400, 800, and then broke the British record in the 1500 meters freestyle. And the 1500 meters wasn't necessarily on my radar as such. It was an event I thought I could do because it was a part of the World Championship program, but it wasn't an Olympic event, whereas I was very much focusing on the 400, 800. Those were the events I wanted to target. But I look back at that competition and, you know, it was my comeback. I felt hungrier than ever to perform at my best. And yeah, the 1500 was a very new event to me. It wasn't something that I'd necessarily had much experience. I think I'd only done it a handful of times. Definitely long course, I'd say less than 5 of the 1500. So to come away with the British record, and it's crazy that it still stands today, really. But I think now it's an Olympic event, obviously being part of the last 2 Olympics. And with Amelie coming along, I have no doubt that she's going to be knocking on the heels of that record. I don't know how long it will stand for because she's been in great form. I've worked with her on a camp actually that was at the Bath Training Centre, where they brought a group of girls along to train. And yeah, she's a great character. She was a lot of fun, but she also works extremely hard in the pool. She's just an engine that keeps on going, which I think is what you need to be a distance swimmer. And, you know, she's still young, she's hungry, she's driven, she's motivated, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what time she can put down. But as I said, I have no doubt that she's going to be knocking on the heels of that record in the near future. If not, it could be closer than I think. So yeah, she's definitely going to be out there to perform at her best in that 1500, and I'd say it's probably her strongest event at the moment. So it'd be great to see what time she can put down, and yeah, how she's going to get on in that event.
Yeah, it's certainly earlier on in the week for her. She's obviously got the 800 and 400 as well, similar to self, going across those distance events and managing that schedule. It's something with this 1500. I guess with Leah Crispin there is the obvious link. A lot of these athletes are starting to cross over between the marathon swimming as well as this distance swimming. I don't know if either of you have any perspective on crossing those formats over.
I think obviously as a distance swimmer, being able to train distance, ultimately you have to do a lot of meters in the pool, a lot of training anyway. But we are definitely seeing this kind of trend of seeing it more so maybe from a male perspective, where you can see athletes win medals in both the 1500 and the open water. But like, even though distance is distance, that is a big chunk difference between a 1500 and a 10 kilometers, and the speed that you now need in a 1500, you can't just be left at the start of the race. You've got to be in it from the start. So it is tricky to be able to manage them both. You know, it's definitely doable because we've seen it, but I think that's down to the coaches and making sure that they're getting enough of everything. They've got enough speed. And even now, in the 10 kilometers, it can come down to the final meters, and you've got to have enough speed at the end of a 10K. So it's almost just as important to have that speed that you have in the pool in the 10-kilometer marathon swimming. So I can see why it's such a big part of the program, and being able to do both, that, you know, you've got the speed from the pool to translate into the 10K as well. So completely different events, but also in the same aspect, you know, it can be done and they can be managed. Obviously, Hannah did it across multiple events in the pool, multiple strokes. So it can be done from that side of things, but also the distance as well. There is some crossover.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, it's interesting to have that perspective. Obviously, a lot of the distance swimmers, in terms of marathon swimming, they spend in Britain a lot of time in the pool, and that's kind of the link in many senses. But yeah, just moving on to the men's 200 fly. This is really quite an interesting event this year. Looking at the top seeds, we've got Josh Gammon coming in to try and protect his British title. Duncan Scott coming in as the second fastest seed, and then James Guy, who's always been a threat over this distance. Just Hannah, looking at this as being year one of the cycle, and for Duncan, he's obviously just trying something new. And yeah, your perspective, kind of when you look at swimming as something that you target the World Championships and European Championships, Commonwealth Games in between, but coming off the back of an Olympic cycle, it's perhaps something fun for Duncan to stimulate himself. And was that something you ever threw in your own program?
I mean, I think it kind of goes to show Duncan's quite a versatile swimmer, and I mean, you can set him up on an event and he'll give it a good shot and be very, very good at it. I think it is the best time to try different events because it's that race exposure. It's being able to learn and practice different elements of your race strategy, regardless of whether it's your favorite event or maybe your weaker strokes or your non-favorite event. There's still always lessons to be learned from whatever race that is that you do, whether it's practicing your pre-pool, whether it's practicing pace work, whether it's practicing finishing speeds. There's always an element of practice whenever it comes to racing, and the best time is off the back of the Olympics. Especially if you've come off a super high competition, you know, starting that sort of new cycle afresh. It just gives you that foundation to try a couple of things. There might be something within training. There's been a lot of changes happening. Duncan's now got a new coach, and I'm pretty sure his training's been changed up a little bit. So there's probably going to be an element of change within his race strategies. So it's an opportunity for him to maybe try some elements. For me personally, I mean, a bit like, I guess, my life after sport, I haven't quite figured out what it is I want to do yet. Same within swimming. I kind of jump from different events because why not? You know, it's an opportunity. If I could qualify for it, then why not take the opportunity to race it? So it was all about the opportunities and just trying different things. And you won't know unless you try. And if it went well, great, learn whatever it was that I learned from that, move it on. And if it didn't go well, again, learn from it and then take it forward so that you can still create that athlete that you want to be based on the highs and the lows of whatever it is event. If we're always sticking to the same elements of what we're used to, doing the same thing all the time, some athletes find that quite difficult mentally. You can kind of hit a bit of a glass ceiling. So changing it up, especially at the start of the Olympic cycle, I think is really good. It just allows that mental change, that physical change, and just gets you remotivated again.
And Jazz, I know you're quite linked in with Bath historically and still have a lot of close contacts there. Are you familiar with Josh Gammon at all in terms of his journey there, coming through the university? He's now part of the Performance Centre, and yeah, perhaps what you're looking from him, having had that kind of experience last year on the international stage at the European Champs and World Short Course, kind of gives him that platform to try and push on.
Yeah, I don't know Josh personally. I obviously spent a lot of my time training at Bath, at the training centre with Dave McNulty, and I feel like now it's kind of got to the stage where I've retired back 2018, 2019, and almost all the swimmers that was there when I was around have now retired or moved on. Like James Guy has obviously moved up to Manchester. So I'm not as familiar with some of the younger swimmers coming through, like knowing them personally, but from from learning a bit more about his journey and the setup that they have at Bath is a great setup for everyone that's, you know, looking to have success. And, you know, I know they've got a great support team around. So, yeah, I've no doubt there's going to be a bit of a fight in that race. No one's going to walk away with it. I think there's some really strong competitors. It's going to be a mixture of experience versus some of maybe the new ones on the scene. But the 200 fly is one of those events. It was never my event. It is a tough one, you know, mentally, physically, it's tough on your body. So I think you're going to have to be able to keep your cool and stay relaxed. And yeah, I think it's going to be a close one at the end. But yeah, it'd be great to see Josh Gammon come through, you know, in what is going to be a strong field, and probably some, like, as we said, Duncan trying out the event to see if it's going to be a big part of his program. So yeah, really looking forward to the 200 fly.
And that brings us to the halfway stage of the Wednesday program. So let's just have another look at the further races coming up. So there we've seen it for the women's 400 IM, the men's 400 IM, and the women's 100-meter backstroke. Now, we spoke earlier about a British record of Jazz's, and now, Hannah, over to one of yours in the 400-meter individual medley, a 4:31:33 set in 2009. That race last year, you actually commentated it on our live feed, and it was a really close race. We've got Freya Culbert back in it, Abby Wood stepping up to the distance, and Emily Smith coming in as the third fastest seed. Katie Shanahan not competing in it this year. She focuses on a couple of other events. But yeah, Hannah, what would you say kind of like the strengths across the strokes in that 400 IM makes the balance of a perfect medley swimmer?
It's a little bit like chess. Every athlete's got their strengths and weaknesses, and within the medley, it's trying to have the least amount of weaknesses within it, but also being box clevering where your strengths are. So if your strength is at the front end of the event, going out all hard might not necessarily work, because then even though you've got your weaker strokes coming up at the end, you're going to have no energy left. So it's all about managing your pace work, managing the missed stroke that maybe isn't your strongest, so that it doesn't sap your energy, so it doesn't become a massive weakness within it and people use it against you. I always kind of sort of say that we have like a fingerprint on how you swim your race. Some people are very good at going out very hard and finishing strong, or for me, I always held back or looked like I was maybe not trying as hard on the fly because my strength was towards the second half of the event. My breaststroke actually used to be the worst stroke for me. I used to have to go out really hard in butterfly and backstroke and then just hang on for dear life for breaststroke. And it wasn't until I was about 19 that changed. So I think being able to race lots of other races, keep working at your strengths and also your weaker strokes, that can change over time. So what makes the perfect 400 IM? I think it's being able to finish the event knowing that you had nothing more to give and you didn't have much of a drop off between your first 50 and second 50 for each of the hundreds. Everybody's got their own ideal perfect race. For me, my perfect race was the British record, but also the race in Rio. And yes, it wasn't as quick as my British record, but for me, looking back at that, yes, I missed the Olympic medal by 1500ths of a second. I couldn't have swum it any better. No matter how much I looked at it, if I improved the speed elsewhere within the event, it would have knocked on another stroke. So it's all about having that consistency, that confidence, and knowing your race strategy, your race pacing, not being too afraid of people going out in front or being a little bit far behind, racing your own race. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I love the 400 IM, because you've got 8 swimmers with 8 different race strategies, and it's who can pull it together the best.
And you're somebody that obviously did the 2 as well as the 4 across your career. For someone like Abby, who's not been seen as much at the 400 distance, stepping up from that 2, what kind of different work might she be doing in training to kind of facilitate coming into this event?
So ironically, one of my last 400 IM or long course races was against Abby at the Glasgow International back in 2021, and I did have a little look at the listings, and actually I think that was the last time she raced it long course. She's raced it recently at Bucks. So she's always been very good at the 400 medley. So she does have a great foundation and a great engine behind her. We know that she's very good at the 200 breaststroke, 200 IM. She's got that speed. So I think when you're building that foundation for a longer distance, it is unusual to go from a shorter distance up. Normally you hear people going from longer distances down. But I think she's always got it within her to have the capacity to re-engage that engine that she had for that distance. So for her, it's maintaining that speed that she has for the two, making sure she can build that stamina, that endurance. I used to think the 400 IM was just an elongated 200 race, and a 200 IM was just an elongated 100 race. Because you got the 4 strokes, you have to be a little bit sharper for each of the breakdown points for those strokes. So for her, I think it's not too big of a step up. I think it's just making sure she gets that confidence within her, know that she's got that finishing speed. We know she does have that speed within her, but it's just holding on to that endurance part. So it could be increasing the mileage a little bit more, maybe doing a couple more VO2 max threshold work so she's got that stamina built up within her. I don't know the Loughborough program as well, so I can't vouch or say specifically what she's been doing in training, but whatever it is, based off of what she did at Bucks, it seems to be working. She is starting to make her back in the 400 IM, so it'll be really exciting to see what she can produce at these championships.
And that race is back straight up by the men's 400 IM. I've got Max Litchfield as the leading seed there, and he's a man that broke the British record at the champs last year, then broke it in Paris. He's followed by Charlie Hutchison and George Smith in that race. Jazz, I just want to ask you, it was obviously a very emotional interview from Max after Paris, and having gone in there and set a British record. I mean, I can't speak personally about his own race perceptions, but every swimmer will face disappointment. How do you kind of reframe that in a situation where he's literally gone out and put the best race in any British male has ever done in that race?
Oh, it's tough. And as an athlete, the smallest margins, can be the difference between elation, the best moment, to heartbreak as well, which, is what others love watching sport for. I was out in Paris with TalkSport and we covered Max's race, and I was just heartbroken. I think even as a former athlete and one that supports all the GB athletes now, and how tough that would have been for Max, and everyone that's in the sporting world, from my opinion, knows what hard work Max is. He's always one that will do everything. He's a hard grafter and puts in all of the work. So I think that's why everyone was, finding it so tough, because they know how hard he's worked to get there. And I think it's almost like the tale of two swords, isn't it, of being able to put on your best ever race, your best ever performance on the day, but then it's just not quite enough for you to ultimately reach the podium or whatever that may be. I think it's tough as an athlete to take that. But I think that's one thing I look at now, and when I reflect on some of my races of the fourth places and the near misses, and I'm just like, whoa, like fourth in the world at that time, being able to do my best race now as an athlete, I look back on some of those moments, and they were actually kind of the shaping of me and built my character, and being able to bounce back and kept me motivated. It kept me hungry. It kept me driven. And as tough as they were to take at the time, they definitely led me on to some better performances. And I learned so much more from those races. I remember even back from a world championship race, I got picked on the last 50 of the 400 in fourth. So I came fourth, and I was in bronze position with 50 meters to go. And that gave me motivation and drive to make sure that every last 50 in training was the fastest 50 I could ever do, because I never wanted that to happen again. And so I've no doubt Max is going to bounce back. As I said, he's one of the hardest workers. It's well known in sport what a hard grafter he is and how he puts in all the extra work. He's such a professional athlete, and I think he'll be bounced back stronger than ever. And it'd be great to see him back on the blocks racing again, and to see what time he can go, and hopefully then obviously go on to compete against the best in the world again, because I don't think it obviously wasn't the last race that we saw of Max, and I'm looking forward to seeing more and more, because he's an incredible athlete.
Certainly, it's great to have him back on the blocks again this year. And just as we move on to our final race of the night, races of the night in the women's 100 backstroke, and just starting off with the multi-classification race, we've got Alice Tyne, Poppy Maskelyne, that both went on to become Paralympic champions in the race. Megan Neve and Georgia Sheffield alongside Poppy in that S14 classificational make for a really tight race on points. And Hannah, I know you've got a couple of links into Paris swimming, particularly on a family link, and your father coaches a couple of that team that was out in Paris now. Yeah, just I guess what were your enjoyments of watching the Paris Paralympics last year and seeing that team thrive on the world stage?
It's always amazing being able to watch the Paralympics because it highlights the human ability to overcome any challenges and actually what athletes can do regardless of whatever situation that they're in. I think it's, for me, I've watched Alice Ty's 100 backstroke, and that really was quite a poignant moment for me because she had dealt with so much setback and just missed the Tokyo Games due to her elbow injury. She then had the amputation of her right leg as well. And we saw how fantastically well she bounced back at the Commonwealth Games. So for her to then absolutely smash it out the park in that race, she was so controlled, so confident in herself. It was just fantastic to see. And it was just such a huge celebration. And for me, that really lifted and highlighted me the power of what these games can do, whether it's the Olympics or the Paralympics. It's athletes' stories that get told and get shown on the world stage. And for me, watching Faye Rogers, who my dad Patrick coaches, that as well was a real special moment. Just having trained with her for a couple of years before I retired, and the impact that her car accident had on her, and actually what the Paralympics and parasport opened for her opportunity-wise, and has allowed her to be a fantastic S10 athlete and prove to the world that, you know, she's a formidable athlete, especially in butterfly. So it's been great being able to watch that. And for me, Alice Ty's 100 backstroke and Faye Rogers' 100 fly for me were kind of the two standout swims that I loved watching at the games.
There were so many standout swims in that. There was goals left, right and centre. And yeah, just moving on to the Olympic pathway race, we've got Lauren Coxon as the fastest seed for the 100 backstroke in 59.6, Kathleen Dawson 59.74. And then there's a couple of names that are really going to be quite competitive in behind that, with Honey Osrin, Katie Shanahan, Blythe Kinsman and Holly McGill. And with this kind of race, it's very much going to be who can get their hand on the wall first in many senses. And that's kind of the beauty of sport. We can talk about times, but actually you come to these championships and you just want to race, really, don't you, Jazz?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about being able to put on your best performance, best race on the day. And, you know, in these races, a lot of them, they're going to come down to the smallest margins. And I have no doubt the 100 backstroke is going to be exactly the same. It's a pretty stacked field, and all it takes is someone to do, you know, a small PB, and things could completely change. So the beauty of the 100 backstroke is also gives you opportunities in some relays, some medley relays, whether that's the mixed or the female. So there's lots of opportunities in the backstroke. So I know, you know, a lot of people are always going to get their hand on the wall first. It's going to be a great one. Obviously, a mix again, probably of experience, some of the youths coming through. I think that's probably going to be the year of that, where we're seeing off the back of Paris and the Olympics, is being able to see some of the youngest ones that have been inspired, they've watched, and it's the start of their 4-year cycle. And then the ones with experience also building themselves back into it and competing again against the best in the UK. So yeah, I've no doubt it's going to be a great race. I wouldn't want to call it, because I think it's going to be a tight one, but an exciting one to watch, no doubt.
Certainly, it's going to be a fantastic way to round off the schedule on Wednesday. Yeah, it's been lovely chatting to you both about the racing programme. This next bit coming up, it's just a bit of fun, but for everyone at home, just see as a reminder of how Podcaster Predicts works.
Podcasters Predict. Guests across our preview series are participating in a bit of friendly competition, putting forward their predictions for 6 set races across the meet. A correct gold medal prediction scores them 5 points, while 2 points will be scored if their chosen swimmer places second, and 1 point for bronze. Follow Aquatics GB socials to see who takes the Podcasters Predict crown.
So we're back, and yeah, with Hannah and Jazz, just to have a look at a couple of these races. And having looked at those 6, we're not asking people to reveal all their cards for the Podcaster Predicts here live, but have you both got a race so that you're happy to kind of say where you're pointing towards?
I'm going to the men's 100 breaststroke, and I'm going to back Archie Goodburn.
I'm going to go for the men's 200 freestyle, and I think I'm going to back, if that's a tight one, Matt Richards. I'm going for Matt Richards.
You've picked, I mean, they're all going to be tight races, but there's very much an element of rolling the dice at this stage, and that's the beauty of sport. But it'll be lovely to see how those races turn out and the rest of your predictions. And so just as we bring it to a close, as much as anything, you guys have got so much going on. Is there any specific projects or elements of stuff that you'd like us to look out for? I know, Hannah, you're involved in a few particular projects around women's health and periods. Is there anything particularly that we can link off to and put any links in the descriptions below?
It's not quite ready yet, but in future wise, there will be a petition coming out to sign to ask the government to basically remove tax off of period sportswear. So they've removed tax from period products, tampons, pads, but not off of period pants or swimsuits or anything like that. So we're aiming to eradicate tax fully across all period products. So that'll be coming up in the near future, hopefully. So keep an eye out for that petition.
Jazz, anything from you?
No, just from my side, I guess. It's just been great to connect with as many swimmers, and for me, being able to support swimmers on their journey, whether that's just to enjoy swimming for as a social sport, or whether it's competing in swimming. I love being able to help athletes as much as possible. You can visit Swim with Jazz if you wanted to take a look at some of the swim camps we're doing, but for me, just being able to see more people in the water, comfortable and safe in the water, is something I'm super passionate about. So it would be great to see more people enjoying being in the water, no matter what level you're at.
Well, thank you both for being continued brilliant ambassadors for the sport and being part of our XQUATICS community. And it's great to have that involvement across what we're trying to do here at Aquatics GB and with the home nations to keep growing the profile of our sport. So just like to thank you both again for giving up your time, and hopefully see you down in London.
Thank you.
Thank you.